Today, we are going to make some grass. No, I'm not in Colorado, so it's not going to be that kind of grass. It's our techniques that are so simple and sensible, your miners have practically built themselves. Well, here I am outside of the Outlaw Distillery, and we're going to go take a tour. Let's check it out and see what they got, shall we? Kirk Sedgwick was a world-class diesel mechanic, but he was growing tired of the trade, and he wanted to chase his dream of distilling premium spirits. So he, got a bunch of equipment, got himself a building, got all the permits and things he needed to start operation, and in January of 2015 opened Outlaw Distillery in Midvale, Utah. In October of 2020, Tyler Halstead bought the whole thing lock, stock, and barrel. There were two conditions, however. Kirk would stay around and he would train Tyler, because after all he was a master distiller, and they would continue to produce amazing spirits. So it was Tyler that took us on the tour of this place. It was pretty amazing. It was about 1,000 square foot facility, and he was telling us quite a few things. First of all, $8 to $10 of every bottle goes to taxes. They use only Utah grains, and in fact, they buy as much locally as they can. They source as much locally as they can there in Utah. I didn't know this, but whiskey is grains only, and bourbon is aged in a barrel. Moonshine is outlawed, spirits. It's actually unclassified spirits. Rum is a sugarcane product. Brandy is made from fruit. Tequila is, made from agave, 100% agave. I didn't know that white sugar is really good for making hand sanitizer, and so that's a lot of these places turned to making hand sanitizer during the pandemic. Vodka is pretty much made from anything cheap. It's just kind of, garbage. But yeah. And gin, it's just juniper berries and vodka. So those were all kind of some very interesting things that we learned on this tour. And here is a shot of the actual still. You can see the tower there and the different lines going off of it. Pretty neat. So they have a little gift shop up there by the front counter. It's really neat, all of the little things they've got on the rack and on the walls and for sale, some of the merchandise. So we'll just kind of look around here. Pretty neat looking. That little still apparently does work according to the guys there. And you can see the tour going on in the back, and some of these really cool posters that are up there in the on the wall in the gift shop. Some of these would be kind of fun to have. I asked, and no, they don't have copies of these, but man, they sure should. That would be kind of fun to have. The one thing I really wanted that they didn't have were these bottles. They had like this one, and I said, oh, this would be great. I got to have this for Halloween, but apparently, shortage on bottles and whatnot, and this is just something they can't get in bulk right now. So really unfortunate, because man, this would look great in my collection. So after a good 45 minutes of education about distilling, now comes the fun part, the tasting. And we all get it's a little teeny cup, a little taste that we're going to get of 8 different spirits that they make. Now, one thing we learned was how to properly taste liquor. You don't just pound it down in a shot and, over the gullet and, blah, blah, blah. No, what you do is, you take a sip, you hold it on your tongue, keep it there for 10, 15 seconds, let the flavors go, and then inhale quickly, slurp it down, and then exhale. And I'll tell you what, it does make a difference in how it tastes when you do it this way. So first up, we have their white whiskey. It's an American whiskey that's made with wheat and oats and finished without being aged in a barrel. They say that this process brings out more of the grain flavor and produces a creamy flavor. This whiskey, they say, is very good with traditional cocktails, recipes, and it should be served, if you're going to have just shots, just served at room temperature. Next up, we have their moonshine. And did you know the federal definition of moonshine is any illegally distilled or smuggled liquor? Well, that being said, Outlaw Distillery's moonshine is definitely not moonshine. A more appropriate definition would be to call this product rumski. It's kind of a perfect hybrid of whiskey and rum. And in the process of making their moonshine, they use a combination of grains, corn and wheat, and sugarcane products, fancy molasses, things like that. And it produces a other kind of product according to the federal government. Now, they say it has an incredible flavor. I disagree. It's kind of like vodka, just there and very potent. I picked up a bottle back on St. Patrick's Day, you might remember, because what they did is they put some green food coloring in it, and voila, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. It does make a good mixer, however, so I have used it as that. Next up, we have their bourbon whiskey, and it is produced in small single barrel batches. It's made from corn and wheat, and theirs is aged in white American oak barrels with a complement of toasted French oak. All of their bourbon is aged according to taste, not time, meaning every single barrel is opened and tasted at least once a month as it nears its 2-year age. Next up, we have their honey bourbon, and it starts life in their small batch single barrel bourbon whiskey, and then it's infused with some organic honey. That sounds very interesting. Kind of caramel and vanilla flavor. Oh my goodness. Anyway, this is great for like making hot toddies, things like that. Very, very delicious. So next we have their rum, and it starts out with a molasses, something called fancy molasses. And they ferment this using only rum yeast strains to produce the flavors. It is aged in French oak barrels to bring out the rich, creamy vanilla, caramel, and buttery molasses flavors. Delicious. So next we have their spiced rum. So to make their rum even better, they use a unique blend of island spices, and it gives it, as they call it, kind of a chai latte or pumpkin pie flavor. I think it tastes a lot more like Fireball, just not quite as much bite. Absolutely delicious, this particular rum. Very good for recipes, baking, cooking, cookies, things like that. Oh, yes, very good. Now here's one I didn't even know existed, their vanilla bean rum. And it starts out as the regular molasses, and after they ferment it, well, they distill it and infuse it with Tahitian vanilla beans. Oh, wow. Yeah, it definitely has that vanilla finish on it and tastes absolutely amazing. And finally, we have their coffee rum. So they have made a partnership with Badass Coffee Company, which is a local company. Great coffee, by the way. And they do their fancy molasses thing. And then they use the signature blend that Badass has, which they fresh roast and deliver to them. Oh my goodness. One of a kind flavor on this. It tastes more like coffee than it does rum. And it's less alcohol too. It's 30% versus the 43%. Delicious. So on my way out, they give you a complimentary shot glass, which is wonderful because that makes 2 now that I have from these guys. And well, I had to pick up some product. So of all those really cool things that we just saw and that I got to taste, which one do you think I would bring home if I had to bring one home? And the price isn't bad on these bottles, by the way. Well, there you go. I brought home some spiced rum. And man, is it delicious. Tell you what, I put that in with some India Pale Ale to make this Pirate Ale that my friend Mark taught me how to make. Oh my goodness, it's delicious. So anyway, I hope you folks have enjoyed this, and we'll see you again really soon.